everybody can hear me now. I'm registering. Very good. Okay, go ahead with your question. Got David. You called him last week, I believe, but you got a good question. So go right ahead.
Oh, I'm okay. Hi. I'm David from Morristown. I called in last week, and if I call in next week, it's going to be a chazaka, and I'm going to have to keep calling in every week then.
That's all right.
Yep. I'm davening for your father.
Thank you.
Gilmore Thomas is in a few days, so I'm going to be waiting on that long line. I'm going to bring him into the Rebbe. So my question is, Gospel of Thomas, what's the deal with that? While mainstream Christianity is staying far away from it. So what's the deal with that? That's it.
All right, good question.
Okay, go ahead and hang on down to the answer. Thank you for your call. Bye.
All right. I'll see ya.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So the Gospel of Thomas is a book that we knew existed and was discovered not that long ago. But there are many books that were discussed by the church fathers that were lost. Because if it didn't make it into the canon and it wasn't heavily revered, then scribes are not going to copy it. I know this is hard to imagine, but in the ancient world, if you wanted a book, it had to be written by hand. That's what the word manuscript literally means, written by hand. Imagine you wanted a book, someone had to write it. So what was the incentive to write, to copy an entire book by hand? And you didn't want to, all right, they didn't have paper, but you had to, a scribe would copy a book only on something that was durable. And, vellum would be very expensive. There were plants that could be used. So the Gospel of Thomas is an interesting book that we now have a good deal of it. And it essentially is I think it's 114 sayings of Jesus. I should be right about that. And it's possibly very old because the Gospel of Thomas contains a lot of sayings of Jesus. The church came to reject the Gospel of Thomas because they believed it had a Gnostic underbelly, underpinning. And Gnosticism, while popular, and in fact affected Paul and the writers of the Christian Bible, Christian Gnosticism exploded in the 2nd century and came to be a noted so-called heresy, and then the church would fight it. And any book they thought that reeked of Gnosticism or even smelled like Gnosticism, they would ban it. There are texts in the Gospel of Thomas that are shared by the 4 Gospels in the Christian Bible. So therefore, it was out there. The Gospel of Thomas is kind of thought to be older than the Gospels. It's kind of like a Q document, which means it's sayings. It's steeped in sayings. So the algorithm is I want to take back the word algorithm. The presupposition in scholarship always runs like this. The more miracles you have, the more developed and later it is. And the earlier stuff should be made up of Jesus walking around and saying things, teachings, being a teacher. And that's what Q is, teacher. And that's what the Gospel of Thomas is, kind of sayings of Jesus. It's possible that there was a Papias who was a church father from the 2nd century. So he says that there was some Hebrew or Aramaic book that contained the logi, which means the words, the sayings of Jesus. That does not survive. If Papias is even accurate, Papias is regarded as important. First of all, nothing Papias wrote survives. It's just that later church fathers discuss him. Very significantly, 4th century church father, who was the historian of the church, mentions him and mentions Irenaeus's reliance on him. So that's why I think it's the sayings of Jesus. So people think that the Gospel of Thomas could actually, its original version of it, could be old because of its nature. And the basic thinking is, if you accept as a postulate that Jesus was some sort of teacher from the Upper Galilee running around teaching stuff, so that would represent an earlier iteration of Christianity, and that he would be running around just doing incredible miracles. So that would be much more developed. So this is, just so we all know, we're now in the world of the humanities, okay? Always keep that in mind whenever discussing when a book is written, what was the reason behind it and so on. This is not a hard science. This is not like you could reproduce it, you could be replicated, that kind of gold standard that's used in the hard sciences can't be done in the humanities. Moreover, bear in mind that in this topic of biblical studies and so on, I would say every 30 years, scholars just change their view. It just swings like a pendulum. So you have to bear that in mind. Like, that cigarettes cause cancer and other horrible diseases is not debated. But these other issues are hotly debated because it's a soft science. It's the humanities, and people should, even though the scholars of this time, there are scholars of the Gospel of Thomas. People do their dissertations on this. But it is the humanities. So, you just give it the best shot. Less development, and so on. So thank you so much for your question. If you enjoyed this program, please like and subscribe.
אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נעשה בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא עובד